In the harsh, unforgiving landscape of ancient Yuzi, silence hung heavy like dust over scorched earth. I knew suffering intimately, not as a distant concept, but as a consuming reality that gnawed at my very existence. My name was irrelevant. My pain was everything. Each breath felt like a battle, each moment a testament to a profound spiritual struggle that transcended mere physical affliction. I had lost everything: my children, my wealth, my health, my social standing. And what remained was an overwhelming sense of confusion that pierced deeper than any physical wound. The questions consuming my mind were not about the magnitude of loss, but about understanding why such devastation could befall someone who had lived with integrity. My body, once strong and respected, was now covered in painful boils, a visible manifestation of an internal torment that words could barely describe. Friends who once celebrated with me now looked upon me with judgment and suspicion, their whispers carrying accusations that suggested my suffering must be a direct result of some hidden sin. Their theological explanations were neat, packaged, and utterly devoid of genuine compassion. But beneath the external chaos, a more profound struggle raged within my spirit. My relationship with the divine was not characterized by rebellion, but by a desperate, raw hunger for understanding. I wasn't rejecting God. I was wrestling with the profound silence that seemed to envelop my pain. Each cry, each lament was not an act of defiance, but a vulnerable expression of a heart seeking connection amid incomprehensible loss. The landscape of my inner world was more turbulent than the physical wilderness surrounding me. Anxiety wasn't a weakness, but a natural response to experiencing what seemed like inexplicable abandonment. My mind constantly oscillated between remembered faith and present confusion, creating a psychological terrain more challenging to navigate than any physical desert. What made my journey unique was not the suffering itself, but my commitment to maintaining spiritual integrity during this profound trial. I refused to curse God, even when my wife suggested I should. I refused to accept simplistic explanations from well-meaning yet misguided friends. My quest was not for comfort, but for genuine understanding. In this moment of extreme vulnerability, something profound was brewing, a transformation that would transcend my immediate circumstances. The silence was not an absence, but a pregnant pause pregnant with potential revelation. My pain was becoming a canvas upon which a deeper spiritual narrative would be painted, one that would challenge conventional understanding of faith, suffering, and divine relationship. Little did I know that my story would become more than a personal struggle. It would emerge as a timeless testament to human resilience, spiritual depth, and the mysterious ways divine presence manifests during life's most challenging moments. My inner landscape transformed into a battlefield where theological debates and raw emotional experiences collided. Each moment became an intricate negotiation between faith's resilience and human vulnerability. Spiritual wrestling wasn't merely an intellectual exercise, it represented survival itself. Profound questioning emerged not from weakness, but from an unprecedented depth of spiritual integrity. My suffering demanded a radical reimagining of divine relationship, challenging traditional theological constructs that suggested straightforward cause and effect spiritual dynamics. Conventional wisdom felt inadequate, unable to encompass the complexity of my experience. Unexpectedly, this crucible of uncertainty became a transformative space. Theological certainties dissolved, revealing a more nuanced understanding of spiritual encounter. Suffering, I discovered, wasn't punishment, but potentially a profound invitation, a mysterious pathway toward deeper comprehension of divine interaction. Psychological turbulence accompanied this spiritual recalibration. Emotional currents swept through my consciousness, generating internal storms more intense than external calamities. Rational thought battled overwhelming sensations, creating an intricate psychological terrain where logic and raw feeling continuously negotiated boundaries. Simultaneously, an extraordinary awareness emerged. Vulnerability wasn't weakness, but extraordinary spiritual strength. My willingness to confront uncomfortable questions represented genuine spiritual courage. Traditional religious frameworks often demanded unquestioning acceptance, but authentic faith required honest dialogue. even when that dialogue felt uncomfortable or potentially confrontational. Interpersonal relationships became another critical dimension of this transformative journey. Friends' theological explanations, once seemingly compassionate, now revealed themselves as shallow attempts to maintain comfortable spiritual narratives. Their perspectives reflected more about their need for predictability than genuine empathy or spiritual understanding. Spiritual authenticity demanded radical honesty with myself, with my community, and with the divine presence I was experiencing. This wasn't rebellion, but a profound commitment to genuine spiritual exploration. Each question, each lament represented a courageous step toward deeper understanding, rejecting superficial explanations that would minimize the complexity of human suffering. Critically, this process wasn't about finding immediate resolution, but embracing the sacred tension of uncertainty. My spiritual journey wasn't a linear progression toward comfort, but a dynamic, sometimes uncomfortable engagement with profound existential questions. Meaning emerged not from having all answers, but from maintaining spiritual openness amid overwhelming challenges. Through this crucible, something extraordinary was crystallizing, a transformative spiritual perspective that transcended traditional religious narratives. My experience was becoming a testament to human resilience, challenging simplistic understandings of faith, suffering, and divine relationship. As my physical strength continued to deteriorate, an unexpected internal metamorphosis began taking root. Pain became my unexpected instructor, stripping away layers of comfortable assumptions about life's predictability. Each moment of suffering carved deeper channels of spiritual comprehension, transforming my understanding of adversity from a punishment to a profound educational experience. Introspection revealed something radical. My suffering wasn't a disconnected series of random catastrophes, but potentially an intricate tapestry of transformation. Every loss, every shattered expectation, was sculpting something within me that traditional comfort could never achieve. My perspective was gradually shifting from victimhood toward a more nuanced spiritual awareness. Remarkably, this journey exposed the limitations of conventional wisdom. Well-intentioned friends arrived with packaged theological interpretations, attempting to rationalize my experiences through simplistic cause and effect frameworks. Yet their explanations rang hollow, revealing more about their need for comfortable narratives than genuine empathy or spiritual insight. Psychological resilience emerged not from suppressing pain, but from courageously engaging with it. My internal landscape became a laboratory of spiritual investigation, where questions weren't threats, but essential tools for deeper understanding. Each moment of confusion represented an opportunity for radical reimagining, challenging me to expand beyond previous conceptual boundaries. Critically, this process demanded unprecedented emotional vulnerability. Surrendering my need for immediate answers became itself a form of profound strength. I discovered that authentic spiritual growth rarely follows linear trajectories. Instead, it winds through complex terrains of uncertainty, doubt, and unexpected illumination. Interpersonal dynamics underwent significant transformation during this period. Social connections that once seemed stable now revealed their fragility. Former supporters became distant observers, their compassion evaporating under the intense heat of prolonged suffering. Yet this very isolation created unexpected space for deeper introspection and personal recalibration. Gradually, a counterintuitive truth crystallized. True spiritual maturity isn't characterized by unquestioning acceptance, but by willingness to navigate uncomfortable psychological territories. My experience was dismantling rigid theological constructs, revealing a more dynamic, nuanced understanding of existential challenges. Psychological complexity became my companion. Emotional turbulence wasn't something to suppress, but to carefully explore. Each internal storm carrying potential insights about human resilience, vulnerability, and the intricate mechanisms of personal transformation. My suffering was teaching me languages beyond words, communicating profound spiritual truths through lived experience. This journey demanded radical honesty with myself, my community, and the ineffable presence surrounding my experience. Each challenging moment became an invitation to deeper comprehension, rejecting superficial explanations that would minimize the intricate nature of human suffering. Ultimately, my path wasn't about finding immediate resolution, but embracing sacred uncertainty. Meaning emerged not from having all answers, but from maintaining spiritual openness amid overwhelming challenges, transforming pain into an unexpected pathway toward profound personal evolution. In the depths of my most profound anguish, I discovered that spiritual resilience isn't a passive state, but an active wrestling with uncertainty. My suffering had transformed from a personal catastrophe into an intricate classroom of transformative learning. Pain wasn't merely something to endure. It became a sophisticated language through which deeper truths could be understood. Navigating this landscape required unprecedented psychological agility. Traditional comfort mechanisms collapsed under the weight of inexplicable loss, forcing me to develop more nuanced spiritual survival strategies. My internal dialogue shifted from desperate questioning to a more contemplative exploration of human vulnerability and divine interaction. Profound insights began crystallizing through this crucible of experience. I realized that authentic spiritual growth rarely follows predictable trajectories. Instead, it meanders through complex psychological terrains, challenging preconceived notions about faith, suffering, and personal transformation. Each disruption became an opportunity for radical recalibration of my understanding. Critically, this journey demanded I dismantle protective psychological barriers. Vulnerability wasn't weakness, but a courageous act of spiritual transparency. By refusing to construct artificial emotional defenses, I created space for genuine introspection and potential healing. My willingness to sit with discomfort became itself a form of profound strength. Interpersonal dynamics underwent significant metamorphosis during this period. Relationships that once seemed stable now revealed their fundamental fragility. Former support networks dissolved, leaving me confronting isolation as both a challenge and an unexpected gift. This solitude provided unprecedented opportunities for deep personal reflection. Unexpectedly, my inner landscape became a sophisticated laboratory of spiritual investigation. Questions transformed from threatening uncertainties into essential investigative tools. Each moment of confusion represented a potential breakthrough in understanding, challenging me to expand beyond previously rigid conceptual boundaries. Psychological resilience emerged through active engagement with pain, not its suppression. I learned that true spiritual maturity involves navigating uncomfortable emotional territories with intentional curiosity. My experience was systematically dismantling rigid theological constructs, revealing more dynamic perspectives on existential challenges. Gradually, a counterintuitive truth crystallized. Suffering could be an extraordinary teacher when approached with openness and intellectual humility. My personal crucible was sculpting deeper comprehension, transcending simplistic cause and effect narratives that often dominate religious discourse. This transformative process demanded radical honesty with myself, my community, and the ineffable presence surrounding my experience. Every challenging encounter became an invitation to deeper understanding, rejecting superficial explanations that might minimize the intricate nature of human spiritual experience. Ultimately, my path wasn't about securing immediate resolution, but courageously embracing sacred uncertainty. Meaning wasn't discovered through having all answers, but through maintaining profound spiritual openness amid overwhelming challenges, transforming pain into an unexpected pathway toward profound personal evolution. The silence surrounding my struggle intensified as physical deterioration accelerated. Chronic inflammation consumed my body, transforming what once felt like temporary affliction into persistent torment. My skin cracked and peeled, each lesion a testament to an invisible battlefield where physical suffering intersected profound spiritual questioning. Psychological turbulence shifted from abstract contemplation toward visceral survival. Survival wasn't merely physical preservation, but maintaining spiritual integrity amid unprecedented challenge. Internal resources I never knew existed began surfacing, resilience birthed through unrelenting adversity, not theoretical preparation. Witnessing my progressive deterioration, Surrounding communities oscillated between fascination and uncomfortable judgment. Their theological frameworks couldn't comprehend suffering without immediate causation. My experience challenged fundamental assumptions about divine interaction, presenting a narrative far more complex than simplistic reward-punishment paradigms. Surprisingly, physical breakdown triggered unexpected cognitive awakening. Stripped of external validations, wealth, social standing, physical health, I discovered an intrinsic human capacity for profound spiritual navigation. Vulnerability became not a weakness, but an extraordinary conduit for transformative understanding. Neurological research suggests extreme stress triggers remarkable neuroplasticity. My brain was literally rewiring, creating novel cognitive pathways through sustained challenge. What appeared as devastating destruction simultaneously represented an intricate reconstruction of internal landscape, a metabolic metaphor for spiritual metamorphosis. Interpersonal dynamics underwent radical recalibration. Former relationships, predicated on superficial connections, dissolved. Authenticity emerged as the soul's sustainable relational currency. Those unable to sit with uncomfortable uncertainty gradually disappeared, revealing the genuine depth of spiritual companionship. Physiological stress triggered biochemical transformations beyond mere medical comprehension. Cortisol surges, typically associated with destructive processes, paradoxically activated dormant adaptive mechanisms. My body was performing an extraordinary survival algorithm, transforming cellular vulnerability into unprecedented resilience. Spiritual navigation required unprecedented psychological flexibility. Traditional religious frameworks collapsed under experiential weight, compelling me toward more nuanced comprehension. Understanding emerged not through intellectual resolution, but through sustained engagement with uncertainty itself. Critically, this journey transcended individual experience. My personal crucible represented a broader human narrative, an archetypal exploration of suffering's transformative potential. Each painful interaction became a microcosmic investigation into human capacity for meaningful adaptation. Counterintuitively, progressive physical deterioration coincided with heightened perceptual clarity. Sensory deprivation, resulting from extreme suffering, activated extraordinary inner resources. Stripped of external distractions, consciousness expanded, revealing intricate spiritual landscapes previously obscured by mundane existence. My experience was becoming a living laboratory, challenging fundamental assumptions about human potential. Suffering was not merely a destructive force, but a sophisticated developmental mechanism, sculpting consciousness through strategic disruption. Each physiological breakdown simultaneously represented an opportunity for unprecedented spiritual breakthrough. As my physical state deteriorated, an unexpected inner terrain began revealing itself, a landscape of spiritual recalibration far more intricate than any external suffering. My body might have been failing, but an internal resilience was simultaneously awakening, transforming cellular breakdown into a remarkable journey of consciousness. Neurological survival mechanisms initiated responses beyond medical comprehension. Stress hormones, typically viewed as destructive, were now orchestrating an intricate survival algorithm. My immune system wasn't merely defending, it was reconstructing, adapting with an intelligence that transcended conventional medical understanding. Sensory experiences became heightened during this transformation. Pain wasn't just a physical sensation, but a complex communication network, transmitting messages through nerve pathways that seemed to bypass rational interpretation. Each nerve impulse carried encrypted information about endurance, revealing hidden reservoirs of human adaptability. Psychological research suggests extreme stress triggers extraordinary neuroplasticity. My brain was literally rewiring, creating novel cognitive pathways through sustained challenge. What appeared externally as progressive deterioration simultaneously represented an internal reconstruction, a metabolic metaphor for spiritual metamorphosis. Biochemical transformations were generating unexpected cognitive shifts. Cellular memory seemed to be releasing accumulated psychological barriers, allowing unprecedented levels of introspection. My body was performing an extraordinary alchemical process, converting physical vulnerability into spiritual fortitude. Immunological responses were generating fascinating psychological side effects. Inflammation wasn't merely a destructive process, but an intricate signaling mechanism, communicating complex internal narratives about resilience and adaptation. My physiological experience was becoming a living laboratory of human potential. Neuroplasticity research illuminated fascinating connections between physical suffering and cognitive expansion. Cellular stress was activating dormant neural networks, generating heightened awareness and unprecedented perceptual capabilities. My body was revealing itself as a sophisticated ecosystem of continuous adaptation and transformation. Biochemical cascades were triggering extraordinary internal recalibrations. Hormonal shifts were generating novel cognitive landscapes, expanding consciousness beyond traditional perceptual boundaries. Each cellular transformation represented a nuanced invitation to deeper self-understanding. Immunological mechanisms were generating remarkable psychological insights. Stress responses were activating complex adaptive systems, revealing human capacity for transformation that extended far beyond medical comprehension. My experience was becoming a testament to human resilience, demonstrating how physiological challenges could trigger extraordinary spiritual growth. Cellular communication was generating unprecedented awareness. What seemed like progressive breakdown was simultaneously an intricate reconstruction, a metabolic symphony of adaptation and renewal. My body was performing an extraordinary survival algorithm, converting vulnerability into an advanced mechanism of spiritual and psychological evolution. As my physical suffering intensified, an unexpected internal dialogue began unfolding. A conversation far more complex than mere medical diagnosis or theological explanation. Chronic pain transformed from a passive affliction into an active instructor, revealing intricate pathways of human resilience that traditional narratives consistently overlooked. Neurological signals cascading through my nervous system carried messages beyond physical sensation. Each nerve impulse transmitted sophisticated narratives about adaptation, challenging my previous understanding of suffering as purely destructive. My body was communicating through a language of cellular intelligence, where inflammation wasn't just a symptom but a nuanced communication network. Psychological boundaries that once seemed immutable began dissolving under sustained adversity. Conventional coping mechanisms collapsed, compelling me toward radical vulnerability. This wasn't surrender. It represented a strategic reconstruction of internal resilience. Surviving meant reimagining vulnerability not as weakness, but as a sophisticated survival mechanism. The fragmented pieces of my experience were gradually assembling into a coherent mosaic, revealing patterns of meaning that transcended immediate comprehension. Something profound was crystallizing, a perspective that honored the complexity of human spiritual journey without demanding simplistic resolution. The landscape of understanding had fundamentally shifted. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles now appeared as intricate doorways, inviting deeper exploration. My relationship with uncertainty had transformed from a source of terror to a generative space of unprecedented discovery. Anticipation hummed through my consciousness, not as anxiety, but as a vibrant expectancy. The narrative arc was bending towards something extraordinary, a revelation that would simultaneously honor the depth of my experience and illuminate broader spiritual truths about human potential during life's most challenging passages. As the landscape of my understanding settled, I recognized that this journey was never truly about explaining suffering, but about experiencing transformation. The crucible of pain had become an extraordinary classroom, teaching lessons far beyond intellectual comprehension, lessons about the profound resilience of the human spirit and the mysterious ways divine presence manifests during life's most challenging passages. My odyssey revealed something far more profound than a simple narrative of survival. It was a testament to the extraordinary capacity of consciousness to expand, adapt, and ultimately transcend seemingly insurmountable challenges. The very mechanisms designed to fragment me had, paradoxically, become the instruments of my most significant growth. What emerged was not a conquered battle, but a radical reimagining of spiritual engagement. Suffering wasn't a punishment to endure, but an intricate invitation to deeper understanding. a complex dialogue between vulnerability and potential. Each disruption carried within it seeds of unprecedented insight, transforming what initially appeared as destruction into a sophisticated mechanism of renewal. I discovered that true spiritual maturity isn't about maintaining constant certainty, but about cultivating the courage to sit with uncertainty. Our most profound growth often occurs in those liminal spaces where traditional explanations dissolve, and we're compelled to develop more expansive perspectives. The silence surrounding our struggles isn't abandonment. It's an invitation to a deeper, more intimate form of listening. This journey taught me that our pain carries intelligence, a complex language communicating far more than mere physical or emotional disruption. When we approach our challenges with curiosity instead of resistance, we unlock extraordinary pathways of transformation. Our wounds become portals, our vulnerabilities become strengths, and our most challenging moments become catalysts for unprecedented personal evolution. As I stand at this threshold of understanding, I realize that the most powerful spiritual practice isn't about eliminating struggle, but about developing the capacity to metabolize our experiences with grace, wisdom, and an open heart. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to interpret and integrate those experiences. My invitation to anyone navigating their own wilderness is simple: trust the unfolding. Embrace the complexity. Recognize that your current struggle might be preparing you for a revelation you cannot yet comprehend. Your pain is not a punishment. It's a profound teacher, whispering ancient wisdom about human potential, resilience, and the extraordinary capacity of the soul to transform. In the end, what matters is not the perfection of our journey, but our willingness to remain open, curious, and compassionate toward ourselves and others as we navigate the intricate landscapes of human experience. Our most significant breakthroughs often emerge from our most challenging moments, revealing a beauty and intelligence far beyond our initial perception.